Have you ever felt like you're too old to make friends and everyone else already has their people, their group chats, their plans, and you're not quite sure how to find yours?
If that's you, you're in the right place. Welcome back to Too Much Apparently, a podcast for deep feeling, overthinking, emotionally overloaded humans who've been told they're too much, apparently.
We're Alice and Carly, two deep feeling therapists figuring out how to live in a world that often feels like a lot.
This isn't therapy or advice, just honest, messy, human conversations about life, healing, and our own brains.
Before we get into it, just a reminder, Carly and I are speaking at the Prosper in Private Practice Virtual Summit later this month. It's a free online event running 21st to the 26th of June for therapists and counsellors. Over 25 speakers across the week, talks you can watch in your own time, and a live closing panel. If you're a therapist or counsellor or just love us and want to see what we get up to in our day jobs, registration is completely free. Find the link in our show notes.
We genuinely love to see some muchlings there. And if you want more of the conversation, we're building a little community over on Substack with journal prompts, community chats, live event updates, and fellow muchlings to connect with. Just search Too Much Apparently on Substack.
So let's get into it.
I think loads of people talk about how hard it is to make friends as an adult.
Yes. Yeah, they really do. Which kind of makes me think, if so many people are finding it hard and so many people want the same thing, why is it still so hard?
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, if so many people want to make friends, that's people to make friends with. So
yeah, like in my head, I've got an image of loads of people just walking out of their house with like a little placard that says, I want friends.
I'm looking for a friend, inquire within.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I do think a lot of people, even that have friendships, sometimes can still be lonely within those friendships. Sometimes people might have friends that they love to spend time with, but maybe don't quite feel like they're people. Maybe they feel like they've missed out on connecting with people who are similar to them or share similar interests. And then so much has been spoken about how there's such a decline in community. People are more disconnected than ever. Life is just so busy that people don't have the time to dedicate to friendships. And if you're somebody who's okay with surface level, low maintenance friendships, then potentially that's easier. But if you're somebody who's craving something deeper, closer, close-knit friendships, then you need the time, energy, and effort to keep them alive. They're like a plant, right? You've got to water them, you've got to nurture them, or they will wither and die. So it's not just about how do I make friends, but then also how do I invest in said friendships? How do I find the time? How do I keep those friendships alive and do what's necessary to create closeness and connection? So I guess there's a lot influencing it.
Yeah. And as you're talking, I guess I'm thinking a lot back to the episode that we did recently on being too loyal. But I guess this episode is specifically focused on the making of friends and doing that maintenance in the beginning to turn one meeting into several meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm imagining that you don't struggle with this. Or would you disagree with that?
I would disagree, but I can see maybe why you think that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I struggle to make friends in the way, I don't really know how else to phrase it, but in the way, like in the normal way to make friends, I guess I want to say.
What is
that? I just feel like I've made friends through unconventional ways. So I do have friends I've made in the conventional way, like we went to university together. A few of my friends are my friends because we met at university. And the rest of my friends, I'm just like trying to think of my friends in my head. The rest of my friends I've met online, which is the part that feels not conventional. It is more so nowadays.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not all that long ago. People might have found that weird, like an online friend's not a real friend, you know. But I have real online friends that I haven't met in person or have met in person one time. And then I have online friends that I've met loads of times, but we met online. And particularly with being an online therapist, I do have therapist friends who I have met through online methods. But also, that wasn't necessarily easy. So early on, when I was trying to make more connections as an online therapist, I remember we might have even been in the same group, but I remember another therapist saying, yeah, just like message people and say, hey, do you want to meet for a Zoom coffee? And I was like, what? That's terrifying. Like, that's just weird. Absolutely no. How would I even do that? Like, I needed the script, I needed the instructions for how you would even do that. And yet, with practice and sitting with a lot of anxiety, I have messaged quite a lot of people saying, hey, I think you're cool. Want to meet for a coffee online? And yeah, from there, some people I've just really gelled with, and we've put more meetings in place. And then those people have then become friends. So, on the one hand, have I managed to make friends as an adult? Yes. But it feels like not the conventional way to make friends. So, for example, I've seen when you look about how to make friends online as an adult, some of them are like go to classes, start going to yoga classes or exercise classes. And I'm so confused by that because I don't understand how you make friends at a yoga class. Like you go in, you put your mat down, everyone's quiet, it finishes, you roll it up, you leave. How does one make a friend in that situation? And yet, a friend of mine has a really good friend that they met at yoga class.
But don't you notice other, I'm going to say women, it's usually women at the yoga classes I've been to, other women chatting to other women.
Yeah, but how?
There.
How does that happen?
I don't know how they do it. It's been so long since I've been to a yoga class, but and I was really just so anxious that I literally did just go in. There was one teacher that I absolutely loved that was really kind and chatty with me, and that felt nice. But otherwise, yeah, I would go in, put my mat down, do my poses, roll it up, leave as quickly as I could to stay away from the awkwardness.
Yeah, whereas a friend of mine who is more of an extrovert was in the queue to go in and just started talking to the person next to them and then just said, don't suppose you want to grab breakfast after this? And the person went, yeah, sure. And then they just went for breakfast after yoga. And I was like, how does that even happen? I would never dare just say, want to grab breakfast after this to somebody I've just met. It amazes me.
What, even now you would, like in my head, you are that kind of person.
Your head is wrong.
Well, and to go back a bit to what you were saying about the coffee chats, that is why we are friends. The fact that you dared to message me for a coffee chat, I don't know why we call it a coffee chat because I don't drink coffee. But anyway, that is why we are friends. That's how this whole thing started.
Not in front of your face.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Doing it in person is way different to just sending a message into a potential void.
Mm.
Yeah, significantly different doing that in person, I think.
In my body, my response is it feels easier for me to say in person to somebody, oh, do you want to go for breakfast? Because then they can quite easily say like, oh, I'd love to, but I've got to go off and do this or, whatever, which would be disappointing, but, fine. Whereas if I'm sending a message off to somebody, like they could just ghost me and that would just be awful. Like I would rather hear their excuse than wait to see if I get a response. But even in that, I can hear my kind of negative expectation for how these things would go. But there are a couple of people that we both know quite well that I keep thinking like, oh, I'll send them a message and see if they want to meet up. And I just can't do it. I'm just too nervous. I'm just too nervous.
Yeah, I think it depends on if there is a desired or expected outcome. I think sometimes when I've just asked people if they want to meet online, it's more of they seem nice. It would be cool to maybe connect with them. But equally, I could connect with them and then we not really gel. So it doesn't really feel like there's that much riding on it. And if they ghost me, it's like, well, firstly, maybe they hardly check their Instagram DMs or maybe they forgot about it. Like, fine. But in person, for me, that feels much more risky in terms of, like rejection of self.
Yeah. And I think I think for me, if I've worked myself up to the point where I've sent them a message, I really want to meet up with them.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, I just won't. And also I think part of it now is I actually don't have space to create really more friendships at the moment. I certainly don't have the time to maintain them. But yeah, I don't know. It would be nice to have like more occasional friendship things. I think it's definitely, I don't have a lot of that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes there are more friendships that I would like to have that maybe meet specific friendship needs that I have. For example, a lot of my friends have children, like married, have children, maybe don't have as much availability or freedom. And for so long, I would love to have a small group of women to go on trips with. I'd love that. And there isn't really anyone that is able to do that. Very, very occasionally, like it's happened, but I would love to have an annual girly trip with a small group of people. That would
Yeah.
just give me so much joy thinking about. So sometimes I feel like I'm still searching for friendships where I can have certain things that would be just so nice to have that I don't currently have.
Mhm.
But I would say like I am fulfilled with the number of friends that I have.
Mm.
But it would be nice to be able to, yeah, just do more things.
Yeah, and like what you said there about you feel fulfilled, and you've certainly got way more friends than I have. But I'm also fulfilled with the friends that I have.
Yeah.
And that feels really nice. And I think that's something that's really important. I think, it is something that comes up a lot with the people that I work with, kind of lacking in friendship, lacking in confidence in making friends, things like that. I think there can often be this idea that we should have a big group of friends, but actually I think it's okay to not have. And I've never been a big group of friends person. I've always been really a one best friend kind of person.
With
I have more than one friend now. But yeah, I don't need lots of friends. And I think that's also okay to just have a few friends or just one friend.
And that is reflected in research that quality matters
Mm.
more than quantity in terms of how fulfilled people feel in
Mhm.
their friendships.
Yeah.
If you have loads of friends, but none of them are really of any quality.
So that's just making me laugh. Poor quality friends. It feels a bit like the manosphere, when they talk about high value man. You've got
I
poor
think I'm
quality
saying that
friends.
because that's how it was
Yeah.
written in the research.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're a poor quality. Yes, they're a poor quality friend. They are. Yeah, but I do think that quality, close, connected friendships do seem to matter more. And also, I do have quite a few friends, but the majority of my friends are scattered around the country.
Mm.
In terms of close friends that are like on my doorstep, very, very few. So that matters too, in terms of it's so nice to have a friend who's available at the other end of the phone or a text and things like that. And it can still be just as meaningful. But also, nothing does beat just being able to pop to a friend's house randomly when you've had a rubbish day. But if we bring it back to why it's hard to make friends as an adult, and so then taking it back to childhood,
Mm.
as children, there are just so many opportunities to create connections and friends because the systems that you are in as a child have built in friendship structures within which to make friends. It's part of what you do when you go to nursery and school and college and university, that creating friends is inbuilt into that experience. And don't get me wrong, this isn't an episode that's focusing on difficulties making friends in general. It can still be hard for people to make friends in those environments, but the opportunity to make friends, whether you struggle or not, is there. Whereas it feels like in adult life, you have work and how people feel about colleagues that becomes friends is a whole other thing. And then otherwise, where is there to
Yeah.
make friends? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think there is really something about the structure. And again, I think it is the structure of modern life. There is so much focus on productivity that it's easy for community to slip down the list.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, social media has made us more connected in some ways, but considerably less connected in others. So I don't have tons of friends on my Facebook. I think I've got like 100 and, oh no, I think I've got 230 or something like that. I don't have 230 odd friends. That's a that's a nonsense. But yeah, and also, so yes, I hear what you're saying. And, there is part of me that's like I did struggle with friendships even as a child. But again, I think like I touched on in the previous episode, there's something about what is modeled to us about friendships. And I think that applies in childhood. But as this episode is specifically about adulthood, I think that the model that we get back then still impacts us now. So you spoke before about, both of your parents are sociable people. They both have friends, whereas my parents don't have big groups of friends. So it's almost outside of what's normal for me. Like what's normal for me is to be quite isolated and have maybe one friend that you see every now and again.
Yes.
So there is something about what's modeled to us about what's possible. And I suppose, so I wonder about that with your friend who spoke to the woman. Did she have that modeled to her by somebody? Has she
Mm.
seen, parents or, other people in her life go up to people and do that? Because I do notice other people that are like that. They will just talk, they will just chat, they will just strike up conversation. I went for a hike with my sister the other week, and a group of people just came over to us and started chatting about what we were having for our lunch. It was really
Right.
strange. And they obviously weren't, making friends with us. They were chatting to us on a hike, but it would never occur to me to say something to somebody else beyond, hello or good morning or whatever. I wouldn't
Yeah.
strike up a conversation about somebody's lunch.
I know exactly
Also, I
what
did
you
love
mean.
it. I did love
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, some people just chatty, like to anyone and everyone, aren't they?
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm glad those people exist because sometimes it's quite nice to have had that little interaction. And
Yes.
then other times I don't like those people exist when I'm like, oh my God, just leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But you're right. It does depend on what we've been modeled. It depends on our early childhood experiences. And it also depends on what our own definition of friendship even is. But in order to be able to have friends, so I found this in a paper where sociologists suggest that friendship usually needs to have three things. One of those is repeated contact. So you need to see each other enough repeatedly. Proximity. So if you're going to see one another often, you kind of have to be quite close in distance. And the third thing is then the context where people can gradually let their guard down. And I think as adults, it is hard to be in situations organically where that's going to happen. So, obviously, in school, proximity, they're there 5 days a week next to you. Repeated contact, same thing. And then repeated contact with people again and again and again, where you can over time let your guard down and then friendship and connection can blossom. Whereas as an adult, apart from, again, work, we're not organically in situations where that would happen. So the only way to then get it is to intentionally create a situation where you can have those three things with somebody.
I'm wondering how it was in times gone by. And my head's gone to the Rover's Return and Coronation Street.
Of course, yeah.
Because what I feel like, so I sometimes watch classic Coronation Street and sometimes I watch current Coronation Street. And I feel like there was much more community around the pub. And now, even on Coronation Street, where the Rover's Return is a central venue, there's still not that same, there isn't that same community. People don't go to the pub in the
Mhm.
same ways because that's obviously somewhere where you could meet people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pubs did serve as the hub
Yeah.
where people would gather regularly and you would get to know everybody in your area. It's not really like that now. And often people will go to the pub and meet up with friends. So you might already be there with friends. So how do you make new friends?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Um, uh,
just think those three specific ingredients are quite hard to come by nowadays. As you say, the community hubs where you would really get to know your neighbors and people that live in your community. It's not that they don't exist, they just don't exist in the same way. And people don't have as much time to go to those places
yeah.
regularly.
Yeah, I think the things that are coming to my mind are things like the mums on the street all know each other, probably because they met at an antenatal group. and now their kids all go to the same school and they kind of know each other that way. I just feel like there was just more community. I'm thinking about, and this is very kind of traditional thinking, but thinking like, and then the men would go out to work, and then maybe they'd have like a works party. So then you'd kind of have social events there. Yeah, I suppose I'm just hunting around in my mind for where were the communities before, was there less moving around perhaps in the past? I think there is more moving around now as people move away for university or move away for work in ways that they perhaps might not have done in the past. I don't know if it's different across different classes, perhaps, in my mind.
Yeah.
So like my dad was a lorry driver, which is what, lots of other men in his family did. And that was kind of just what you did. That was your family kind of thing.
Yeah. So if you take my granddad, for example, he is nearly 90 and he still has a very rich social life. And it's always been that way. But thinking back on where his connections come from, a lot of time was spent at the local social club. The social club would put on and still put on events, weekend trips away that lots of people would go on together. He goes to a jazz club. So he's got loads of connections with other people who like jazz. He goes to a bridge club, which he's done for so much of his life. And he is a chatter. He will chat to anyone. So he knows all the neighbours and all the neighbours know him.
Yeah.
And then equally, a number of years ago, he decided to paint his house bright blue, literally Smurf colour.
Wow.
So now his house is known as the Blue House, and sometimes people have driven intentionally to come and see this blue house. So he loves it. He just stands out on his front, just chatting to people for ages about his bright blue house. But what I'm both getting at, and I recognise I'm literally drawing from one person's experience here, but I just think there was a greater focus on socialising, having social events, more like village fetes, village events and things like that, where people might get to know one another. So it feels like there was just more community effort to create community. I don't know how else to say that.
Well, I actually wonder how much is related to social media and or having computers in our home. Because, I guess I'm thinking about the hunger to be connected, and that social media gives us this illusion of being connected to people without us ever really building proper relationships with them. There are people online that I feel like I know because I know so much of their lives, but they don't know anything about mine.
So it's that parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Also, naming it the illusion of connection is important because we then feel like we are connected, but of course aren't. And even if we're not fully aware of it or know what to call it, your loneliness can then exist alongside that. But I was also thinking before when you mentioned about antenatal groups, that people I know with children that have been in said groups still talk about how it's great at the beginning, but things fizzle out because people say, hey, shall we meet together? And people's diaries just never align. So, can you do this date? Sorry, I can't do that date. What about this date? Oh, I can't do that one. I can't do that one. People are often talking about, you get people's diaries together and, we found a space available. It's in 8 months' time, on this date. So even if you've managed to find sometimes a space to make connections, it doesn't mean that you can keep the contact going enough for it to become meaningful.
Yeah, and I think that's what part of me mentioning that was thinking about, has women working more had an impact on it? Like how did women socializing with other mothers and not having the obligation of work, like how was that part of the web of everything that then goes on? If you're around on the, both the school runs and you're around for play dates and or kids can play out in the street and things like that. There's so much there is now not there if mum is also having to work. And this is not an anti-women in work by any means. I'm a woman who works. I'm a mother who works. But it is then a different picture if children are not out playing on the street because they're in after school club. I suppose kids making friends at after school club as well, but mum is not making friends Or maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's just different. Maybe mum's making friends at work instead of friends with the mothers on the street. Or yeah, I don't know. I just like it must be part of the picture, I think. But I do think the
Yeah.
internet and having computers at home is a significant contributor to it.
I think work is important and work is probably an important factor, but not just because of work. So I know this isn't what you were saying, but women were still very busy when they didn't work. However, women now work, and yet research shows, and they still do the majority of the domestic labour and childcare.
Yeah.
So it's not just that one busyness was switched for another business, it's that women are busy and then still are doing that on
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
So perhaps that is why it is harder. It's that they're even more busier because of now having to fulfill
Yeah.
multiple roles. So yep, they are working and then kids maybe an after school club and then all the domestic stuff afterwards. How are you supposed to maintain friendships?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like I said at the beginning, it just confuses me that there are so many people that want to make friends and yet I guess not the mechanisms really to make friends. I think I am starting to notice more like social clubs
Mm.
popping up. So someone's just put one up for the town that I live in for women who work to be able to socialize together.
Oh, great.
Well, yeah, and also I think I have a like, oh no, what's that about? And I don't know if it's because it feels a bit like speed dating,
Right.
going to
Yeah.
make friends. Just something a bit of, I don't know, it's just something feels a bit artificial about it, which is odd because, I mean, I met my husband on an online dating website and I wasn't like, oh, I'm on here because I want to be like, yeah, that's why I'm on here because I want to I want to meet someone. So I'm not quite sure why I have that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean because it is a bit artificial because it's not the organic way that you can make
Yeah.
friends. As we've spoken about, it has to be intentional, which has just totally reminded me, and I don't know how I'm only just mentioning it. It reminded me of the time that I joined Bumble.
Oh yeah.
So there's an app called Bumble, and you can switch it for dating or you can switch it for friendship finding. But it's exactly the same as dating apps where you swipe, but for friendships. And I was on there for a time, made some connections, I met up with a few women, and sometimes those kind of fizzled out. But then I also became connected with someone who'd been on there for a while and had created a group of other local people that they'd found on there. So I got invited to join this group of people. And so I started to hang out with them sometimes. And I really enjoyed it when we did activities. Like one of the first things we did was wreath making together that someone hosted at their house. And that was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed having a group of women to do fun activities with. But when it came to just the socializing aspect, I was just quite different. And I just knew that they weren't my people. So I could enjoy being around them, doing fun exercises and stuff like that. But I could just tell that they weren't quite my people. And so eventually I just kind of dropped off. But even just doing that, like that's an active way to make friends. It took a lot of effort, a lot of energy to be able to engage, just exactly as it does with dating apps, swiping, matching with people, having conversation, meeting up. Are you my person? Are you not my person? There's a lot to it. So I think even when we get proactive and we really think, right, I'm going to do something about this and I'm going to make friends, it's difficult because well, I guess what that experience taught me is you can be proactive and find friends. I found a very nice group of people to hang out with, and we did quite a lot of stuff. And that wasn't all that difficult, really. But finding your people, the people who you think you could be friends with for life, who share similar values and outlooks on life or are interested in similar things, I feel like that comes back to kind of dating, really. It feels like needle in a haystack.
Yeah, which is so where I go to with that is like my people are therapists.
Right, yeah. I think I've realized this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's something about like the kind of work we do or the level of like personal development that we have to do to be able to do this work well. Yeah, it's just really important for me to have friends who are reflective and open to thinking about themselves and growing and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you're just more likely to find that in a therapist.
yeah, yeah. I don't. Yeah, it feels tricky. Because, I'm thinking about like old friends and they're not therapists, but also I've drifted apart from them. Yeah. Well, no, hang on a second, because I did join a book club when I moved up here. And I've been to a separate book event with one woman, and we met up for a drink once, kind of separate from book club. And that was really nice. And she's not a therapist.
Mm.
So, okay. No, I don't need my friends to be therapists.
I think it's more that therapists may embody some of the things and qualities
Yeah.
that we like. I just think it's more likely to come across that. But I also have
Mm.
friends that aren't therapists who are great friends.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. But a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight about why this is important, because we can talk about, oh, it'd be nice to have more friends or people to do things with. But there's a more serious side to the importance of having friends and connections. So I'm just going to read out a couple of
Mhm.
things that I found when I was researching for this episode. So, social connection is linked with a lower risk of serious health issues, including depression, anxiety, heart disease, stroke, and dementia. And there was a major meta analysis research study that found that stronger social relationships are associated with around a 50% increased likelihood of survival over time. So, having weaker social relationships is literally associated with early death.
That is wild.
Right? Yeah. We
That
know
is
like it's
wild.
friendship's important for well-being, but that just like really pointed out how actually important it is for
Yeah.
overall health and well-being and survival.
I remember reading that loneliness is as bad for your health as smoking.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it's speaking to a similar thing, really.
And also, I don't know. Part of me's like, was it helpful to know that? I think maybe part of me was motivated then to make more friends because of that. But I think also if you're in a place of really struggling with anxiety or self-loathing, or just find it way too vulnerable to have friends, also it can feel even bleaker.
Yeah.
So I think there's something about kind of approaching stats like that with caution.
And with compassion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
anything, there are so many things in life that we know maybe aren't good for us, or it would be we
Mm.
would prefer it to be like this or better to be like that. But it doesn't mean we can just suddenly up and magically have it. There can be so many contributing factors as to why that is difficult. But whilst also appreciating at the same time, knowing that these things, can and do have an impact on our health and well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe another point here that kind of follows on from the difficulties of making friends is the risk of vulnerability. And this obviously comes up a lot in therapy, but maybe we don't think about that so much when it comes to being friends. You like, what stops you saying to the person in the queue, "Do you want to go for breakfast?" Like that it's making yourself vulnerable to rejection, isn't it? But I
Yeah.
think there's also, in order to become friends, in my mind, it takes depth and it takes vulnerability and it takes, showing different parts of yourself that you might not show to everybody. Showing your weaknesses and your sore spots and things like that. And if you're full of, like I said, anxiety and self-loathing, that's really hard to
Yeah.
get to.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's risky.
Hmm.
Posing that question to somebody, or however else we might suddenly somewhere pluck up some courage to try to connect with somebody.
Mm.
Yeah, it does take vulnerability and it takes risk. And so much of what we talk about, many people will relate to, but even just making it more specific for
Yeah.
sensitive and neurodivergent people
Mm.
is so many of us might think, I don't even know how to strike up the conversation.
Yeah.
So I can't do small talk. If I speak, I'll be scared about what they will say next. And what if I freeze up? And what if I can't respond to that? What if I end up embarrassing myself? What if I look like an idiot? What if I get overwhelmed? Yeah, it's not just as straightforward as I'm going to try and ask someone next time if they want a coffee or go for breakfast.
Yeah.
There are so many other additional layers and fears that would just mean that that maybe just feels totally impossible to even conceive of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, if I think about where I have managed to make friendships, I think there is something about um, having to do things scared. So a long time ago now, must be over 20 years ago, I joined one of these social groups. It was like a meetup group. And the only reason I got myself into that group, the only reason I went into the door to meet them was because I didn't want to go back to my therapist and say I didn't go in.
Right.
The discomfort of having to go back and say, yeah, I didn't go in was more than the terror of going in. And it didn't turn into anything, that didn't come to anything. I did a couple of pub quizzes with them and then fell back on my default of romantic relationships. But yeah, well, I think even with you, even when you kind of messaged me for a coffee chat, I don't remember now, but I imagine that I was super nervous about it because I don't have that small talk piece. And actually, that is where I have found reading books about small talk and how to make conversation and approaching it as a skill that I don't have. I found that quite helpful. And there are parts of me that are cringing and like, oh God, don't say this. Like, how uncool and weird do you want to sound? But the reality was, nobody had modeled, I hadn't had enough of that modeled to me of how to make friends and how to be around people. I just hadn't had enough of that. So I haven't developed the skills. So I needed to approach it as if I was learning French or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not to say that I'm great at it now. I'm not. Small talk is not my favorite. I do, often freeze up in situations that I'm not familiar with. The way that I think about it now is that it takes me a while to warm up,
Yes.
but I have enough. I have enough to get by
Yeah.
and get to where I need to be.
I think sometimes as well, just recognizing the things that we might need support with. So again, this was many years ago, but there is an app, there's a website called Meetup, and Meetup is where people like literally publish social events that you can go along and join. And it's to create community and it's to bring people together and to create friendships. And sometimes they're around an activity or an interest or just an age range. But there are so many on there. But when I wanted to go along to one, and the idea of just walking in on my own to a group of people, strangers that I didn't know, and somehow I don't know how to just strike up a conversation with a stranger. I just don't. But actually, I just messaged the organizer and said, hey, I want to come along. This is something I struggle with. Could I text you when I'm outside the venue? And can you come and meet me and bring me in and introduce me to some people just to get me started? And of course, they were like, absolutely, like no problem whatsoever. And sometimes there are ways around the things that we might struggle with. So rather than pushing through to just walk in on your own, can I take a friend along? Can I email the organizer, message them and just say, look, don't suppose you'd give me a hand with this? In a way that then is still going to be anxiety provoking and still going to be uncomfortable and maybe difficult, but maybe it just opens things enough for you to be able to do it.
Yeah. So it was a meetup thing that I went to. It was on that website meetup that I went to. And actually what you just said there reminded me of the thing that I said to myself when I went in, which was, if this is the worst hour of my life, it's 1 hour and then it's done.
Yeah.
And I found that really helpful.
Yes. Just 1 hour and then it's done.
Yeah. And the worst hour of my life was over. And it wasn't awful. Like I said, it was a pub quiz. I went in. I managed to answer a question that was about CBeebies because I had small children. So I was able to contribute something. Yeah, it was all right. It was all right.
And it went okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's not that there's not things out there. People are creating spaces that are things we can do. We just kind of have to find it. And even if going along to something like that right now feels out of reach, sometimes I might suggest, but just look.
Yeah.
Just so that you know what is out there, so that right now it might even feel really far off till the day comes that you could actually attend one of these things. But a helpful first step is you're still engaging with it by looking.
Yeah.
You're getting yourself used to the idea that one day maybe I might try and go along to something like this. So find out what things do sound up your street or a group around something that you're interested in, and then just keep a note of it somewhere.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good idea.
Oh, I feel like this is maybe my like autistic part speaking, but I really wish people could just apply for friendship like you would a job.
Yeah.
Apply to be my friend. Send me your friendship resume. Tell me all about you, what your interests are, what your values are, how you see the world. And actually, if our friendship CVs align, it's like, woohoo, you're a match.
Is
Wouldn't
that not
be
what
good?
Bumble was? Is that
No, it's
how
far
do you
too
say?
limited for
Okay.
that.
What,
No.
as in it would need more people on it to make it work? Or how do you mean?
No, it would need a whole application process and like algorithm to match people, I
Right. Okay.
suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, now it's more area, how much of a drinker you are. Do you smoke? Do you take drugs?
Yeah.
Do you
Sure.
do this, do that, age, gender,
Yeah.
those kinds of things? So, no, it would have to be a pretty savvy questionnaire and associated algorithm, I think, to match people up. But hey, last episode was talking about ideas. Another idea right here.
Yeah.
Someone invent that app, please.
That would be good. That would make things a lot simpler, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, but then I don't know. I wonder if there's something about the awkwardness. This is like completely off the cuff, but is there something about constantly trying to avoid uncomfortable feelings that is keeping us stuck in different ways?
Yeah, like, of course.
Is there something about leaning into the discomfort of doing things to get used to doing uncomfortable things
hmm
that would be helpful across the board and not specifically about friendships?
Well, that's where I think mindset can be helpful. So you said that it felt weird going to an event with the idea of, I'm coming here to make friends.
Yeah.
Whereas if our mindset is, I'm coming here to challenge myself because this is something I feel uncomfortable with,
Yeah.
then whether or not you connect or make friends, not that it's irrelevant, you still have feelings about it, but that's not the goal. The
Yeah.
goal is just going.
Yeah.
If we go with the goal of, I must connect with someone and leave with a new friend, like, oof,
We're
that's
pushing the bar very high there. Yeah.
yes. But if the goal is, I go and I'm there for an hour and then I leave and you do that, victory.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
So, yeah, on the back of what you just said, perhaps that's another way to engage with this. It's a bit like if we were to start dating, saying, my goal is to find the one. Like, probably in for a world of disappointment there. Whereas if we go into it saying, okay, well, I would like to find someone, but let's meet different people. You may be more likely to have more of an enjoyable time. And perhaps it's similar with friends. It's okay to want to make new friends. But if your goal is exploration, experimentation, getting curious, stretching your comfort zone, then I think you're going to have a better time.
Yeah. 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 It's a really good way of looking at it.
This makes me just want to come back a bit to our Substack, because even though it's another online space and we know that online connections can also create disconnection and loneliness, but I'm really passionate about trying to, my fantasy in my head, my vision is that one day there's enough people and enough people engaged that we can actually have in-person events where we can meet other people who are more likely to be similar to us, and actually where more connections can actually in-person connections can be made. So if you're listening to this and that is something that you do want, then do come along and join us, because hopefully we can create it into something really cool.
Do you know what we need now? We need little badges like this, right?
Yeah.
We need a little too much apparently badge, and then people can wear it. And then if you see someone else in the wild with a too much apparently badge, then you can just make friends with them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's such a good idea. Look who's an ideas person.
That's 2 ideas I've had. That's enough for today.
If you've ever felt like you're too old to make friends, like you've hovered over sending a message, wondered if asking someone for coffee is weird, or convinced yourself everyone else already has their people sorted,
maybe that's not a sign you need to try harder or become more outgoing. Maybe it's a sign that adult friendship just works differently, and that you're looking for something deeper, more intentional, and more aligned.
Next time, we're diving into Too Afraid to Let Myself Matter, the unhelpful habit of putting everybody else first, saying you're fine when you're not, and shrinking your needs so you're never a burden. Plus, why so many sensitive people learn to abandon themselves to keep the peace.
And one more reminder before we go. If you're a therapist or counsellor, do come and find us at the Prosper in Private Practice Virtual Summit from the 21st to the 26th of June. It's free to register. There are over 25 speakers and you can watch the talks in your own time. Find the link in our show notes. We'd love to see you there.
Before we go, we'd love you to come and join our Substack community, Too Much Apparently. It's a little community space for fellow Muchlings where we share journal prompts for every episode, host community chats, and share early updates on new episodes and live events. If you'd like to stay connected between episodes, just search Too Much Apparently on Substack or click the link in the show notes.
And if this episode made you feel a bit less alone, subscribe, rate the podcast, and follow at Too Much Apparently on Instagram and TikTok. Those small clicks help other sensitive humans find us.
But for now, we'll leave you with this. What kind of friendship are you actually longing for? And what might it look like to take one small, imperfect step towards it?